Leaders who know how to communicate effectively with those around them will see better productivity and improve relationships in every aspect of their lives. This is true for all domains and practices, but it's especially true for product managers. Without good communication skills, how can you translate user feedback into insights? And without amazing communication skills, how can you drive your team and stakeholders to focus on the things that matter, especially in days of uncertainty? Hello, leaguers, and welcome to today's Ask Me Anything session, the place where talented and curious product managers like you get the opportunity to ask us anything. And today we answer your questions about communication practices for product managers. We product managers spend much of our time communicating ideas, plans, design, and tasks to our teams. It includes everything from emails, communication decisions, to presentation of roadmaps, specs, communicating product designs, and bug tickets with communications of errors in the product. This is why this is going to be a great and valuable session for all product managers out there, junior product managers and veterans of the fields alike. By the way, I am Moriya Kassis, founder and general manager of Product League, and what we do is helping you to become the best product manager you can be. Product League is an international mentoring program for product managers by product managers. Please type your name and where you are from in the comments because I want to meet you. You should come by our weekly live Ask Me Anything shows every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These are our little product parties. And today we've got 3 talented, dedicated, and experienced Product League mentors to answer all your communication practices for product managers questions. You are at the right place. Trust me, this is going to be such a valuable session to all of you, and you're already gonna learn new things that you can make into actions that will help you to become a better product manager tomorrow morning. Let's dive right in. So we have 3 dedicated Product League mentors, as I mentioned, and the first one to joining us live from Tel Aviv. Let's welcome ilil ben-shalom to the floor, Senior Product Manager at Mind and Product League Mentor. ilil has spent the last 10 years in the startup industry building products that change lives. After years in the PC gaming industry, ilil is now part of Mind, helping users take ownership of their data and privacy. In the product world, ilil is an avid evangelist of soft skills and communications, taking part as a keynote speaker at conferences and product courses, and here with us today. How are you, ilil?
I'm great, thank you.
Happy to have you here with us. Very excited about the opportunity to learn from you. And from Tel Aviv, we are moving to Berlin, where we have joining us live. Please shout out a big hello to Katarzyna Malolepszy. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. VP Product at Element Insurance and Product League Mentor. Please correct me and say the right way to pronounce your name.
It was close enough. It's Katarzyna Malolepszy. It's a known tongue twister in my company as well. So yeah. Hello everybody. Very great to be here.
Hello. I'm working on it for 4 months, but we will get it the right way one time.
We'll get there
soon, hopefully. Katarzyna is specializing in the innovation of fintech and the highly regulated products. She believes in high-performing teams where people share a common vision, goals, and KPIs, and are driven to collaborate, challenge the status quo, and hold each other accountable to achieve outstanding results. And this is one of the things that we are going to discuss today, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much for joining us. Can't wait to learn from you. And we are back to Tel Aviv with last but not least, Eyal Sheinholtz. Get ready to learn from him. Director of Product Management of Social at eToro and Product League Mentor. Coming from a rich technical background as a developer, team leader, and an architect, Eyal decided to pivot and dive into the amazing world of product management. Eyal loves creating the best experiences a user could ask for, from ideation to execution, while being data-informed and ensuring product deliveries are of the highest quality. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Happy to join and happy to see everyone here.
And happy to see you wearing the Product League t-shirt. Yes, you know how to make me happy. Thank you very much for that. So we are calling back ilil and Katarzyna to the stage, to the floor. What do you say, ladies and gentlemen? Are we ready to dive right in?
Ready.
Loving it. So how is it going to work? When the audience registered to this event, we gave them the opportunity to ask us, you, anything they want about communication practices for product managers. We chose the questions that were most frequent, but also the questions that were exciting, interesting, and what we believe can help our audience to become the best product managers they can be. But we don't stop there, because at the end of the session, we're also going to have a live Q&A where these three magnificent product league mentors will answer the questions that will be submitted by you, the audience, live. And for that, you have two call to actions. One, please go ahead and like this video and our channel or page, wherever it is that you watch us, because, just user feedback one-on-one and show us some product love. And the second call to action is for you to use the chat and ask us all the questions that you have on your heart and on your mind when it comes to the communication aspect of being a product manager. Well, to the communication aspect of being an amazing product manager, because this is why we're meeting here today. So with no further ado, this is the right time to start with the questions. And the first question goes to all of you. It comes from Rodrigo, and he's asking how your company's practices or your team dynamic has changed during the last year, during COVID time. And ilil, will you give us the honor of being the first one to answer this question?
Well, I've just started my position at mine about 2-3 months ago, so I can't reply for the whole time, but I can say that what we have done is moved very drastically into softwares that allow us that support teams that are separate, like Miro and like Figma. We have, up until even 2 months ago, we still worked with other tools, and we have completely abandoned everything that is not collaborative, because it's impossible to work in a non-collaborative way when you can't see each other. We need everyone to have access to everything. And I'm in love with Miro. I love it. It's a beautiful tool.
And they don't pay us. We don't promote them there. It's just
and they don't pay me.
a neutral.
I wish
they're not sponsors.
Loving it.
But it's amazing.
Loving it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ilil. Katarzyna, how is it going on your team when it comes to this question?
So I think luckily enough, we were actually distributed teams before. So we have 8 development teams, and each of the team had somebody remotely. And once one person is remote, everybody's remote. So we were kind of used to working in distributed teams, which helped us a lot. So Element has 3 offices, and then we have a couple of consultants here and there. So we were actually, the transition was very easy for us when we ended up with 120 offices instead of 5. So we were very lucky, actually. So something which was a pain at the very beginning for us, and we had to learn how to work, became actually our advantage.
I like the reference of treating each person, each employee, home as an office. That's a very nice way to think about it. Thank you very much. Eyal, what about you?
So I think it's been a really challenging year where over communication was a lot more important. Yes, we have more Zoom meetings and chats and WhatsApp messages, Slack, emails, whatever. But that's not actually a bad thing if you can manage it. So people are missing the human connection, both personally and professionally. As we're not able to just visit the person at his work desk, we need to balance it, make sure people are synced, know what they're expected to do, and for that matter, know what I'm expected to do or what I'm doing. And it's not just about letting the world know what you're doing, it's about syncing everyone and trying to keep everything running smoothly, focusing on important things and making sure everyone else is too.
Wise words. Thank you very much. And we're staying with you because Vidahi has a question to you, and they are asking, I would appreciate tips on communicated priorities and getting input across different cultures, especially in a distributed team. So we just discussed the opportunity that we all deal with these days with distributed teams, and it oftentimes goes between different cultures and continents and countries, and that's a big win, but it's also a challenge at the same time. So what are your tips?
So there are a few ways to understand the question, and I'll try to cover everything. But if we're talking about different stakeholders within the organization, for example, offices around the world, then I usually try to make sure we're synced on a weekly or monthly or quarterly basis. It depends on if it's just one request or continuous work as the main stakeholder. This means making sure the flow of operation with them is understood. Some prefer to write a business requirement document, a BLD. Some just like sending emails. I usually don't stop at that. That can be an email or a sync or something may get lost in translation, even literally. So making sure we're available to discuss it and adjusting ourselves to them. For example, making sure meetings are set to a specific time zone, which is equally less painful for everyone, is important. Regarding priority, if you're working with different stakeholders, you don't have to be concerned about letting people down and never take it personally. Usually you have limited resources and need to prioritize some items over others. And that's where uncertainty kicks in. You'd rather let someone down than be vague. As human beings, we don't actually handle uncertainty that well. So it's better to let them know if something will or won't be done, communicate the priority and why. This will give them the option to challenge it, which is fine and it's okay. And if any ETA can be given, for example, an effort estimation, when do you want to reconvene and discuss it, etc., it's better to manage it this way than to say, I'll add it to the backlog, which is something we always say, which in the best case scenario will generate an email every week, every month until they know what is happening with this task. If we're talking about the dev team, we adjust to their culture. Yes, it puts a strain on our work, but it's manageable, and that's the key. For example, some teams work better with Slack, some with Viber, and at first, I try to make sure that we find the path of least resistance, and then, when it's possible, make sure we align on the best way to communicate and work. The same goes for documents too. Some teams require more explanation, examples, etc. Some don't. Some teams can take a one-pager, develop it to amazing feature, while others require going into a lot of details. And the goal is to make sure we're conveying whatever is needed the best way for the team and take it from there. Adjustments are always made, especially if you're new to working with a team. And the last item, if we're talking about working with your product team, the biggest challenge is usually alignment. Some companies make sure squads can move independently from others, but some require syncing with the rest of the product managers to make sure we achieve company goals. Having a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly, and ad hoc meetings are crucial, so everyone is aligned on the priorities. You can have project managers that can help, depending on the size of your organization, which deal with cross-team requirements, but it all boils down to making sure everyone understands what you're trying to achieve, what needs to be done, and actually when. Once the product team is aligned, it usually trickles down to the dev teams through the different product managers. And as the famous Bear Grylls says, improvise, adapt, overcome. So in other words, if it doesn't work, think up of a new plan. It's the key to survival. So we as product managers need to adapt, make things happen, but when the process really spirals out of control, we fix them.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it all goes back to alignment, which is the reason why we're meeting here, because it's about communication, practices, and tools, and methods, and skills above all. So I'm very much happy that you mentioned it. And we already started talking a little bit about tools, and Laura is saying, I absolutely love Miro as well. So this goes back to that, yes. And yeah. Shantanu saying using the Asana board for requirement sharing works for him. Yeah, so already dive into a little bit into the tools aspect. Thank you very much, Eyal, for sharing your thoughts about how to getting input, how to make communication work better for the team, especially for a distributed team. And we're staying with Similar question, but from another angle, because now we're not talking about how to do it within a distributed team. We are going to talk about how to do it with executive. So Pink, I love this name, asks, what is your advice on how to deliver and conduct meetings with executives? And it goes to you, Katarzyna.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. I think when it comes to meetings in general, I think to what Eyal said, first you need to ask yourself the question, can this be an email? So people in general tend to create too many meetings. So first I would think like, okay, can I solve it via email? If not, what am I trying to achieve with the executives? I would really approach it from like, know who you are dealing with, right? Executives are very busy people. They have a lot of responsibility. They're always on the way. So you should have in mind who you are trying to have a meeting with. And for that, I think the very important part is actually preparation. So in our company, when we try to achieve something from the executives, we send them, of course, we schedule an email enough time in advance. We have exact agenda, and we also send some briefing so they can prepare for the meeting. What I would really advise to everybody, being executive myself, when you send an email to the executive, please, very structured email, bullet points, data which backs up the decision. If you need a decision from the executive, no links redirecting to Confluence pages, Asanas, no Excel files inside, because usually people are on the mobile phone, like, you know, going from one room to another, trying to read an email, so they have no time to open, or no tools to open an Excel file. So really structure this information. And what I would also recommend is, okay, what's the problem statement? What are the possible solutions? What is your recommendation for the solution and why? So when you actually go to the meeting, everybody's briefed to the best level possible, and you can actually solve the problem really quickly, and you don't waste, well, I wouldn't call it maybe a waste exactly, but you do it in as brief time as possible, so executives can move to strategic decisions of the company. But before you do all of that, and before you conduct the meeting, very good preparation, and then maybe a follow-up, what was the decision during the meeting, so you have also like a proof what was happened. But before you do all of that, can this be an email?
I love the approach. I highly agree with that. And I will add that actually it goes to all emails that we send, you know, making sure that the action item that is required from the person is highlighted and in bullets. This goes a long way, these little things. So absolutely agree with everything that you mentioned, and I'll even make it stronger and say, use it with all of your team members.
Definitely.
Loving it. Thank you very much. Ilil, we're back to you with a question from Ash. And they are asking, how do you communicate effectively when you may feel angry or defensive in a slightly tense exchange?
So first of all, just generally, if I wake up in the morning and I feel like I have a bad day, and I think that especially during this time, it's super easy to find those days. I do a short survey with myself, like, can I handle this day? And in case I don't, I say it out loud. I think it's really important for people to be aware of themselves and their limitations and take ownership of that. So first of all, if you wake up in the morning and you're having like a severely bad day, you feel like everything is going to get on your nerves, you're very tired, whatever. Mental health days are structured just for that, and they are not used enough, I think. So first of all, you need to take ownership of yourself. And then when you're in a discussion and you're getting to a point when you suddenly notice that this discussion has gotten very heated, and there are some really negative emotions on the table right now, maybe from all parties, then the minute you notice it, you need to do very straightforward things. The first thing is to stop and breathe. Just take a mental step back and feel like, okay, I'm feeling my heart is racing, my mind is racing. what is it? Am I hurt? Am I angry? Did someone say something? Just take a step back, breathe. And after you do that, you have to remember that you're the grown up and you need to manage the situation and not just react to it. And when you're managing the situation, you need to remember that even though empathy is one of the strongest tools that a product manager has, I think that one of the difficulties when you empathize with someone is that you might lose the boundaries of where are their feelings and where is your feelings. Because many times when we're in a heated discussion, we're getting angry because someone in front of us is getting angry, or you're getting stressed because someone else is getting stressed. And I think that in a way, this is one of the most important skills that a product manager need to learn, and that is to contain his own feelings and make that separation between what I'm feeling and what the person in front of me feeling. Because a lot of time the product manager will be the focal point of pressure, of stress. Things are not working. They're not as designed. We missed the timeline. This is my girl in the back. And people will come to you. People will come to you, and you will need to manage that situation. And one of the first things you will need to do is create certainty. Like, if you can't be calm, then no one can be calm. Like, you're the person that people go to for the certainty, for the calmness, for everything is going to be okay, for I'm on top of it. So if you're losing your shit, then everyone will lose it. So it's really important to take ownership of your feelings and to say it as it is. Like, I'm feeling like this discussion is getting really heated. Let's just all breathe for a moment and talk about it and really bring it up to the surface. This is what's going on right now. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. Everything is okay. The one thing that you need to remember is that you don't need to let those emotions manage the situation. You're still the grown-up. You're still the one managing it. It's okay to have a discussion if you're crying. It happens. It's okay. Just if you're feeling like you can't do it, just step back and say, okay, you know what? I feel like this discussion is not productive at this point. Let's take a few minutes. Let's get back. I'm not in my strongest point right now, or there are some things I want to check, or I feel like this discussion is not good for any of us. But it's really important to remember that you need to manage this reaction.
We lost you for about 3 seconds at the last sentence that you said, and I'm sure it was super important. So can you just re-say it again? Just the last sentence.
I said that's what's working for me, and then it stopped working.
I would actually like to add on to. Oh, sorry.
No. Of course, Katarzyna, jump right in.
Because this was actually very good speech, Eyal, and I just would like to add on that this is actually called emotional intelligence, and I really recommend everybody to read about it, how to contain the emotions. And it's not easy, right, to know yourself really and how you react to certain things. And once you understand how you react, you can also manage this better. But I would really recommend to read about emotional intelligence in general.
Yes, thank you very much. Eyal, do you want to add anything on that?
No, actually, no. I want to elaborate. No, I actually wanted to say something simple. I really agree with Ilil because not just about being a grown-up. I think that in the heat of the argument, we usually tend to be very defensive, and that doesn't lead to anything good in terms of a working process. I totally agree. We need to be sometimes the grown-ups in the room, but also not take stuff that are people saying as personally as sometimes we take it. I mean, a professional failure doesn't mean I failed as a person. Sometimes people don't see switch between the two and say, okay, my personal persona or my work persona, they're the same. And sometimes it's not the same. We're being challenged on a day-to-day basis, which is fine. We just need to put ego aside and say, okay, someone may challenge a solution that we bring. Someone may challenge something that we release. That's fine. all we need to do is make sure that we believe in it, that we can prove it works, and have maybe data on our side or A/B test on our side or whatever we want to do. But you'll see that if you don't take it personally, just understand that criticism is okay, and just respond, people are less prone to having like a heated discussion or a fight about something.
Yeah, I agree with you. And usually we take the questions that submitted by the audience at the end of the session. But as this is a very sensitive yet very important topic to discuss, I think it's the right time to bring a question from the audience that was submitted in the chat even now. And Laura is asking, dear mentors, have you had embarrassing situations when you had the right to be frustrated but couldn't manage your frustration and lost it? How do you come back after that? So something happened, either someone criticized you or you had, an argument or something bad happened and you lost it. And you think that it was okay, that you had the right to do it, but you still know that you lost it. How do you come back afterward?
I can start. I think that no, I was waiting for a delay. I think that the last time it happened, I actually went into an email thread, and usually people know me and know how I answer emails, and it was like a very passive aggressive tone because it was like very late at night and we're working on something, and the simple way is just understand that you're a human being, and I just talked to the person and explained, and we both understood it. I think having a functional working relationship with your coworkers, your colleagues, whether it's other product managers, team leaders, group leaders, is really important. So people understand. So just be open about it. Say, okay, sorry, I got mad. Maybe you understood it or didn't understand it from the email. And just explain yourselves. People know when you reach like a breaking point, and know that it differs from your day-to-day behavior.
True. Ilil, Katarzyna, anything to add?
Sorry, go.
I have a tendency. I'm like super smiley and everything's fun and rainbows and sunshines, and then I completely lose it. And then I go flip side and I go like I go mental. So first of all, whoever knows me knows this. It's like it's out there. I'm a very passionate person. I'm passionate about everything that I do. I put my whole heart into everything, and that means that when I'm frustrated, I'm frustrated, just like when I'm happy, I'm happy. So the first thing is that's in a way who I am, and that's on me to manage it and control it. Going back to the original question, but I've had at least a couple of times where I completely melted over my bosses. And I mean, completely melted. Like if I were an icicle, then there would be a small puddle around them. And the thing that helped me was, first of all, it was in context. It was not out of context. I just wake up in the morning and lost my thing. And the second thing, I completely owned it. Like I came back, I apologized sincerely, not for what I said, but about how I said it, about the like I felt that I said things that were right, but I said them in a way that was not communicating and did not promote communication. So I completely owned it, and I apologized personally to whoever needed it, and I moved on. It was and since even when I melted, it was not personally. I was not like insulting people. I was not mad at people. I was just generally mad. It was okay. I think that it's really hard to come back from places where you get angry or frustrated and then you take it out on someone else. I mean, it's okay to shout and to vent and to cry and everything, but you can't go into the dark side in a way. You can't go and say, it's because of you. You're the person who actually doing it. I mean, it should never be personal. It's always about you. Whenever you're angry, whatever happened, whatever made you unhappy, it's always about you. It's never about the person in front of you. And you can always come back from things that you do to yourself but you can't always come back if you're treating someone else not right. And I think that is my main point here. You can lose your but you have to do it on yourself. Like, you can't do it for someone else. That's not cool. These are people you work with. They have feelings. It's hard for them as it is for you. Just, it's okay.
And as I said earlier, we're grown-ups.
And we're grown-ups, yes.
We should
we should own it. Yeah.
Some of grown-ups, some of us, Eyal is saying, in the backyard. Yeah, like not all of us. Thank you, ilil. Katarzyna, your point of view?
Yeah, I will maybe very briefly just to express that I didn't lose it maybe in a big sense, but I cried, for example, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be in a second that I'm hormonal or something. So, especially as a woman. So, as Ethan said, I just came back, I apologized. I think it's very important to take some time to calm down, to reflect on the situation and apologize, not necessarily for the content, but for the behavior, and don't bring up the situation. And really, it was never an issue. And everybody understands we are just humans. We have our own problems. It can be also like something happened at home, something happened on the way to work, there was just a message. So there is a lot of background which can affect your behavior in a given situation. So you just need to apologize for the behavior, not necessarily content, as I said, if you think you were right, and just move on. It happens to everybody.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much to three of you. We're being a little spontaneous here with taking the questions now. And we're going back to the already submitted questions. And there is a question from Diana. It goes to you, Katarzyna, and she's asking, when some team members prefer reading things over meetings, what strategies will you suggest to ensure all team members get what they need to be most effective?
I really like to build very strong teams. And for me, in order to be a strong team, you need to communicate on a regular basis. So I would really try to understand why people don't want to communicate. It can be many reasons, right? It can be difficult time zones. Maybe people are overloaded for some reason. Maybe they don't like communicating with other people. They don't feel comfortable. So I would really try to understand what is the reason that the person thinks that they should communicate via Slack updates. I've tried that a couple of times. It really goes south very quickly, and try to bring people together. But when it comes to, so this is when the team needs to think and they need to understand what they are doing, what's the progress, what are the dependencies, like a daily for a product development team, right? The worst idea you can do is to pretend that this is going to work over the Slack. People really start going to different directions. But on the other hand, if you think that if you're waiting for an update from one person to other people, and this is simple status update on something, I would say this is okay. If this doesn't require like regular calls, and just agree, okay, please send it in the Slack channel to all the people or send it via email, ask people to respond, that they got it, that they understood, they have no other questions. But I wouldn't do it with regular meetings. And people should have a team spirit, right? It cannot be a bunch of individuals trying to achieve something. And you can only do it by collaborating together.
It's really, really hard to build an empire over Slack. I totally agree with you. I will also add that usually, from my experience, those that prefer only written communication are afraid of their time being wasted in meetings. So it's also an opportunity for us as a department, as a team, as whatever structure it is, to check that we only use time meetings for the reason that we set the agenda that we set for the meeting. Yeah. And we use time wisely. So great tips. I highly agree with you. And I think we can't build an empire over Slack. It's going to be one of our next slogans. I love it very much. And going back to the answers that you gave Laura on her question earlier, she's saying, thank you guys. It really helps to see that other product managers face moments like this as well. I totally agree about owning it and moving on. We are stronger together. So thank you very much, Eyal, ilil, and Katarzyna. And Eyal, Maya has a question to you. We're staying with the, how would they call it? Operational versus emotional aspect of our job. And she is asking, I would be happy to know what you advise to do when the head of product is displeased with the product story after weeks of work. How do you deal with such a situation in front of your team and head of product? I'm sure there is more than one way to manage these stakeholders, and I would love to get inspired. Inspire us, Eyal.
So I think it's simple. You just need to do it behind our back. So I'm just kidding. I think it's just like any other conflict resolution. We need to keep an open mind. And first listen, take in the criticism, understand the core of why the head of product is displeased. I think you'll be surprised to know that a lot can be resolved when you try to get to the bottom of things. So just ask why, or keep asking why until you understand. It can be as simple as a small design change or a bit more complicated. But the important thing is to know your story inside out, and it will be easier for you to communicate it why you chose the way you chose to do it. I think eventually that may still be their call. Maybe there's a management decision you're not familiar with, and we need to make sure that they understand the cost of their concerns about the change they're asking for. Also, I think that maybe disengaging for weeks to work on something may yield the same result you asked about. And I think it can be mitigated by having a review, whether it's an email or a meeting, or if you have a lot of meetings, it can be any way that at some point making sure you're all aligned on your heading to reduce the unknowns before showing up with weeks of work, and maybe understanding that you're not on the same page. I think it varies between managers, but some appreciate the independent work without having too many things, which is fine unless it results in rolling back all your work. You can always suggest A/B tests. So if you don't agree on the right solution, maybe having data on your side is always good. So you should have it, which also means that if you can test something before doing it, before heading out and doing weeks of work, then it's hard to argue with data, assuming you haven't gone really off the reservation and did something that completely goes against company values or goals. People are entitled to opinions. Some have the position to enforce the decision, and we need to reflect everything, whether it's data or gut hunch or anything that can help them see the complete picture of what it means to go their way. I think regarding your team, and that's a sensitive subject in some companies, assuming the decision was made to go back to work on something they completed, I think it's important to differentiate between the team's work, which was great, which was amazing. We need to convey it, we need to explain it, and the head of product's opinion/decision. I mean, once we make sure that we convey and they understand their work is great, we can also go to explain or start explaining that we need to consider a different approach. We need to go in a different direction. Because this was the decision. And again, I'd rather not get to this point, but as your management, you also need to represent management and respect the head of product's decision too.
I agree. Wise words. And this is a very interesting topic. I wonder, Katarzyna and ilil, if you have anything to add.
I would maybe add one thing. I would be very careful with head of product being disappointed, because at the end of the day, they are building a product for the users. So I would really try to see if the fact that head of product is disappointed means that users are disappointed. And I had one situation when I was disappointed with something, and the problem was something completely different. And actually people were right. So you also need to admit to that. But what we do with my team, we always say, like, we don't fail, we learn. So if there was something which didn't work in a process, try to learn from it, like what didn't work, maybe small retrospective, and try to derive some improvements for the future. But it happens to everybody, it happens to every company, so I also wouldn't panic. As long as you learn from it, it's okay. And it's not like, a regular thing that after every feature somebody is really disappointed and it's not what they wanted, but it happens on an occasional basis. I would say it's okay. Just learn from it, move on, and improve it for the future.
Yeah, it was an investment. You just learned something different than what you had in mind on day one. Thank you very much. Ilil?
I just, Eyal said it, and it's really important. I think that we should differentiate between two situations. The first one is where the head of product sees this solution that you're presenting for the first time after you've worked on it for a couple of weeks, for a number of weeks. And this is the first time you're getting the response for your suggestion of solution. And the second is that after weeks of working on a solution where the head of product already saw some of the phases, they're still really unhappy with the result. And those are really two separate situations. The first one you should actively avoid, no matter what the executive likes or dislikes, if they do like to communicate or if they do not like to communicate. One of the things that protects you as a product manager is transparency. You should always try to achieve as much transparency about the decisions that you're making and the direction that you're taking with the solution that you chose, why you chose the solution, what was the discussion, what was the way of thought, and you should try and make that obvious and engage in conversation with the managers as stakeholders as soon as possible. As soon as you think that you've reached a solution, which you probably should not reach, which you, by the way, should not reach alone. It's a decision made by the entire team. Everyone should be behind the solution. You should always present it to the stakeholders just to make sure that you're in the right direction. Even if you're just taking like any 10 minutes of your time, this is the problem that we stated. This is the solution that we think can get us there. Can we green light it? Can you green light it for me? Don't wait 4 or 5 weeks on working on a solution that no one green lighted on, because that's like a sure way of failing in a way. You need to get everyone on board the solution that you're choosing, even if the solution is going to fail afterwards. Just like we said, it's a test, it's a hypothesis. It might prove wrong, but you need to be able to justify it, and you need to get everyone behind it. And the other situation where you get someone who's continuously displeased, like you've already worked on things and you've worked together, they know where you're going, and they're still displeased, then there's something deeper going on. It's not the solution. That's not the problem. Something deeper is going on. You need to have a one-on-one and talk about what's going on. Why are you not happy? What didn't work? You need to do like a personal retro with that person and try and see if there's something underneath everything.
These are great recommendations and tips from all of you. Thank you very, very much, Eyal, Ilil, and Katarzyna. And we're staying with you, Ilil, because Ran has a question to you, and he's asking, at which point would you communicate and how your new feature ideas to the startup stakeholders? So we're talking about startups, we're talking about stakeholders, and we're talking about product managers that think they have the best big idea for a feature for the startups. So when do you communicate and how?
We are not in the business of making features, okay? And any product manager who thinks this is the business of making features should find another occupation. We're in the business of solving issues, of solving user issues, of solving, I don't know, financial issues, of solving problems. You never come up with a feature. You come up with a solution to a problem that you've identified or that you have discussed. And especially in a startup, and I've worked in, this is my 6th startup that I'm working in, you have such a small bandwidth and you have so little resources. Even if you have the best idea, like you woke up in the middle of the night and you thought of the best solution, it doesn't matter. There are probably better things right now on the roadmap that needs better focus. Now, on the question of when to do it, whenever you want, and especially in a startup, communication should be extremely fluent. You should be feeling comfortable enough, up to at least 50 people, I believe. You should feel comfortable enough to go to the CEO and to say, like, I think that we're doing something wrong, or I think that we should do something right. But it should be presented in a planning session, and it should be a solution to an ongoing problem. And you need to remember that really you're not in the feature building business. You're making a product. You're making something a bit bigger.
We have very good slogans in our session today. I love it. Thank you very much. Wise words. Yeah, wise words. And Lance has a question to you, Katarzyna, and he's asking, what are some excellent ways to shift a team from being dev-driven into being a product-driven shop? I'm in the enterprise SaaS space, but I'm sure this know-how could be useful for everyone who is watching you.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's no like real manual how to shift the company from one strategy to another. I think it's very important to understand what is dev-driven development and what is product-driven development. When it comes to dev-driven development, it usually works with very small companies, and the product is targeted for developers. So developers are end users and they understand their own problems. When the organization grows, it stops working, right? Because they cannot communicate with end users, try to understand the problem. And this is usually when you try to shift a bit into product-driven organization. But then there is also misunderstanding quite often what is product-driven development. So it can be that you develop the product, you find the niche on the market, you find something, you're trying to solve the problem and you push it to the market. That's Apple approach. And it can be product-driven organization when you are trying to understand which problems are you solving. So I'm not sure in which direction the SaaS company wants to go. What I would personally recommend is try to find out what your customers want, what problems are they having, and what is the unique proposition you are offering. So this is more about like how and why, and you need to definitely communicate it to the company, right? Transparency is everything, especially in small companies, in startups, when you're very transparent to the company and you say, guys, this is not working, we need to do it in a different way. We found out from the market, this is what is needed. This is the vision of the company. This is the mission of our team. These are the tactics, how we are going to implement it. We are focusing on the output, not the outcome. So we are trying to measure it if we are solving the problem. And we accept it. It's going to take a very long time, but we are transitioning in our organization. This is how I would approach that. We did that at Element as well, that we started using OKR framework, which I think helps a bit to structure the company, which is changing, which is transitioning in a way. But I think this is only with patience and transparency. Yeah, I think that's what I would recommend from my side.
Great tips. Thank you very much. And ilil, Vlad has a question to you. And he's asking, do you have experience using systematic approaches to communicate and encourage coordination?
It's an interesting question. First of all, I want to say that I strongly believe in open channels of communications, but that just gives way for companies to say, hey, we have Slack. Everyone can just write to each other whenever they want. We have open communication. And that's mixing the tool with the solution. Like, it's the tool, it's not the solution. Basically, communication should be given time and space actively, not just as a tool. And you should not just wait for communication to organically happen. It's part of your job as the product manager to ensure that communication is flowing and happening at all times. For me, regarding systemic approaches, there are a few ceremonies, I think they're described, that I really love. First is naturally the daily. The fact that everyone conveys together over their cup of coffee, and I do it sitting, I don't do it stand-up, I don't do stand-ups. And the fact that just everyone gets together and they see each other and they understand what everyone else is doing, just giving faces to each other, and especially when working remote, making sure that everyone sees faces, that they open the cameras in their daily meetings. The second ceremony that I find extremely important, especially during those times, is a weekly meeting, and it doesn't have to be just work-oriented. It's really important to have like a one-on-one personal, like face-to-face, camera-to-camera interaction with everyone on your team at least once a week. Just getting like even 10 minutes of how are you? How's the week? What's up? Is everything okay? Is any of the tasks giving you anything? And all those things just get you to it's okay to talk mood, because what you want to create inside your team and inside your company is a culture of no stupid questions, where people feel extremely comfortable to say that they do not understand what you're talking about. Like the points where no one understands what you're or where someone, if someone inside your team does not understand something, it means you're going to fail. Because if you can't get the idea to someone who's working on the product in your team with you, then the user is not going to get it, or it's going to get stuck with the executives. Like you've got to get everyone on the same page, and you can't do it without people admitting to the fact that they do not understand what you're talking about. And the last ceremony, which I love, is retro. I think it's super important. I think we should have retro like for everything in our life, like simply everything.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most productive things that you can do. Just be honest about what worked, what didn't work, what would we do better, and creating a space, like a safe place for people to vent and say everything that didn't work and what they were frustrated about. And once you create this space, this safe space that comes back every like month, then people know that they have this safe place, and it makes everyone much more positive. They don't ferment with like unease. They don't go and gossip with other people about it didn't work. No, they have this place where they go to once a month, and they can vent out everything. And I think that for me, I found that this is like the most one of the most constructive ceremonies for communication inside a product team. And just one more thing, we talked about that was a meeting that should have been an email. We should also be extremely mindful of that was an email that should have been a meeting, because it's really, yeah, it's really important to make sure that I've said it before and I said it again, that everyone's on board. And it's really hard sometimes to get it with text. Like there's this dream, I've met a lot of people that dream of the magic tool that will get everyone on board with just text, and they dream about it and they idolize it, and it's never, ever, ever gonna happen. Okay, people need to talk. You will never find the magic tool that just gets the text to do it for you. So just ask yourself once in a while, was this email actually supposed to be a meeting? And yeah, so that's
Loving it. Thank you very much, ilil. Eyal, Walter has a question to you and is asking, could you share some ways to leverage communication practices to promote inner change for teams and individuals?
Yeah, I think that we as product managers have a huge challenge. We need to lead without being direct managers of most of the people we work with. This is why getting everyone on board and doing the buy-in or presenting what we want to do is crucial. So whether it's stakeholders, developers, or anyone else in the company for that matter, we must put ego aside. I think I mentioned it. Be professional, convey our thoughts, decision, design, elaborate when needed on the why, which is, by the way, extremely helpful when working with other developers to keep them committed. And again, run demos, whatever we can to convey our ideas and keep an open discussion and not a toxic environment like, I'm a PM, it's my call. It's never just about us. It's about everyone working together. You'll soon see a change. I mean, people are less defensive. Discussions are much more fruitful. I also like to say something about the inner change, which I've mentioned before, about never taking it personally. A failure or something that didn't work, that goes for you, that goes for the other PMs we were working with, your team, even the developers. I mean, if something fails, and I totally agree with ilil about the retrospective, that's exactly the place to discuss it. It's not something that we need to punish someone or be mad at someone. We need to learn from it to improve in the future. That's just one sprint or one thing that failed. We can always improve and learn from that for the future.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you very much. And we are moving to a very interesting question that comes from Timothy and is asking for books and blogs recommendations from you three. But before we'll dive into it, I want to remind the audience that we are waiting for some product love from them. So please hit the like and subscribe and follow and whatever it is button on the platform that you are watching us at, and show us some product love. That's it. So this is your call to action. And now we are going to talk about blogs and books, and we're going to start with you, Eyal. What is your recommendation for the guys?
Sure. I like to recommend the SVPG, which is the Silicon Valley Product Group led by Marty Kagan. They have a blog, which is really inspiring, pun intended. There are great posts and very, very interesting to read.
And we included a link to it in the chat, so everyone could just link and click and follow. So thank you, Eyal. And Katarzyna, what are your recommendations?
So yeah, I would recommend exactly the same blog, but then I would recommend probably 3 books. So it's Eric Ries, The Lean Startup. It's about the transformation towards the agile environment for the big companies, but it's also for the small startups. It's amazing book, and it's also you have a lot of events around this book, like Lean Startup conferences. So I highly recommend that. There is also 360-degree leader, to what Eyal said, that product owner is actually leading without being a direct report. And this book really recommends like how to communicate with different people around you, C-level managers, people on the lower levels, but within the whole organization, and act differently. And 1 Minute Manager. 1 Minute Manager is also a really good book, how to communicate differently depending on the people's personality. So if you know that somebody is maybe more shy, you can engage more in the conversation. Some people need more micromanagement, some people need less micromanagement. So you can really easily navigate between that. So that would be my 3 recommendations.
Loving it. And again, the 3 recommendations are included in the chat for everyone in the audience to follow. Thank you very much. And ilil, what is your recommendation?
I love Mind the Product. It's a wonderful, wonderful blog, and they have amazing, really insightful read. They also have a wonderful podcast. I'm a real podcast fan because it allows me to get content on the go. And that way, when I have those slots of available time while commuting or something, I can listen to it. I listen to a lot of product materials, but in Hebrew. In Hebrew, there are a lot of product, really good one. There's Girsat Bamai, which is amazing, and there's Mozzarella, which is really nice. So what I love about podcasts is that they keep themselves updated. Like you're listening to someone who is right now talking about something really RTM. And I think that one of the things I really like about it is even when you think like you've learned it all or you've seen it all, you listen to a podcast and then just one line out of it makes you like go, wow, like this is okay. I haven't thought about it, and just flips your mind into like, okay, I should do this today. And it just gives you a lot of energy, and it's super fun to listen to people who know what they're talking about. It's really insightful.
Yeah, and we're all here to learn new stuff, right? The journey is never ends for product professionals. Yes, so thank you very much, all of you, for your recommendations. I had a great time learning from you. How was it for you?
Amazing.
Fantastic.
It was fun.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and knowledge and experiences with us. From Tel Aviv, this was Eyal Sheinholtz, Director of Product Management Social Products at eToro and Product League Mentor. From Berlin, Katarzyna Malolepszy, VP Product at Element Insurance and Product League Mentor, and ilil ben-shalom, also from Tel Aviv, Senior Product Manager at Mine and Product League Mentor. I am Moriya Kassis. This is Product League. Thank you so much for watching us, and we can't wait to support you on becoming the best product manager you can be. Until then, go league it up. Bye-bye, leaguers. And again, Eyal, ilil, and Katarzyna, thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.